Kiss Sis is a trashy step fantasy harem anime from 2010, and I love its theme song. This April, I'm the fool. Tomorrow marks 10 years since I stopped living with my parents, and my choices led me here. Kiss Sis is not your average horny anime for teenage boys. Just kidding, that's exactly what it is. Our spiky-haired protagonist, Keita, is supposedly unpopular and untalented, yet he has the full attention of every girl he talks to, and his twin love interests gleefully do housework for him. He has a few unnamed, unlikable friends who only exist to remind us that the heroines are desirable, and the girls in the show undress for no reason, literally fall into impossible situations, show us how not to eat food on a stick, and ask Keita which would he like first, dinner, a bath, or me? And yet somehow this show has touched the hearts of young people all over just Japan, judging by this comment section. But people have surprisingly warm and nostalgic memories for this show, including some women. And I would be lying if I told you I think the theme song is responsible for this legacy, but I watched this junk in 2014, and although I barely remember the show itself, I still think about that opening. Maybe you like it already just from what you've heard in this video. And if not, I certainly can't change your mind, but you're welcome to hit that subscribe button and watch me embarrass myself. The Kiss Sis theme song, Balance Kiss, was written and arranged by Yukari Hashimoto. You may have heard her soundtracks in shows such as Komi Can't Communicate, Mr. Osomatsu, Toradora, and dozens more. Kiss Sis feels a bit out of place on Hashimoto's resume, and she seems to think so too. When she announced on her blog that she made the theme song, she wrote, "The anime seems a bit extreme in its content." Well, say what you will, Miss Hashimoto, but I'll have you know one episode was so sweet it made me cry. Yes, I only found this show because I was spiraling after being dumped, but I don't see what that has to do with anything, and it's weird that you brought it up. Balance Kiss, though. This song has a lot of weird bait and switches in its phrasing and harmonies. Not that complexity is a good measure of artistic quality. You can't make music good by throwing a bunch of twists and turns at it. But if you add twists and turns with intention, you can get some pretty enjoyable results. The same way that Dead the Whole Time is satisfying in The Sixth Sense, but annoying as a Rugrats fan theory. While I do think that Balance Kiss has parts that are unreasonably well written, it has its flaws too, so let's get that out of the way first. Let me paint a picture. When I was writing this video, I worked on a job that involved standing still and having a giant fan blow fake snow in my general direction. I will not elaborate, and as I stood there face-tanking gobs of foam and generally learning how it feels to chew 5 gum, I thought to myself, oh my god, this is just like listening to Balance Kiss. There's just too much happening here. I assume you're used to anime baby voice because you're watching this video, but still, the character voices certainly aren't helping the overstimulation issue. I think the main culprit is the mix. Everything is loud out of 10. We've got vocals, synth brass, more synth, distortion guitar, and drums, and they're all vying for the listener's attention. Wait, is that a metaphor? No. No, I really don't think so. Also, I'm not a fan of having kick drum on every beat at a high tempo like this. It feels like a heart attack. I'm just not on enough cocaine for that. Clearly some people are though, because someone uploaded a Nightcore version of this song. Why? Why? Anyway, let's move on to what I do like. The first unusual part of this song is halfway through the opening chorus, where Hashimoto plays with our expectations in 2 ways at once, with phrasing and with scale type. We'll start with phrasing. Phrases in music are basically cycles of tension. Every time the harmony and rhythm feel like they're coming in for a landing and then starting something new, that's the end of a phrase. Conventionally, most modern music has phrases of 4 measures, but a pretty solid clue that might not be the case here is that the chorus is 10 measures long, and that's not a multiple of 4. Take a listen. If you're not familiar with the song, you may have had a split second of disorientation somewhere around here. That's because the second phrase starts just like the one before it, but quickly gets interrupted by a third phrase. But again, it's not just the phrasing that's off here. The music gets notably darker, too. What's that about? The short answer is Hashimoto is using the parallel minor. The long answer is it's time to talk about scale types. The vast majority of all music ever made can be mapped to one or more musical scales based on which notes it uses and how it uses them. The songwriter doesn't have to be aware of this for it to be true, although established composers like Hashimoto certainly are aware of it. In Western theory... Why am I doing this? In Western theory, most scale names have two parts, the tonic pitch and the scale type. In the scale name E major, E is the tonic and major is the scale type. The tonic pitch is a frame of reference the listener uses as context for the harmonies they hear. And for the type of the scale, that depends on what notes those other scale degrees are. Each scale type has its own unique pattern for how much higher each scale degree is than the one before it. On paper, this is all abstracted nonsense, but in practice, major scale music usually feels brighter than minor scale music. So this part uses E major, and this part uses E minor. Before resolving back into E major. These two scales are considered parallel to each other because they have the same tonic pitch, E. As you just heard, moving from a major scale to the parallel minor can add a bit of drama. On screen, the sisters lean in to kiss the main character, and the parallel minor sound adds to the anticipation and nervous energy of their young, ethically complicated love. I want to briefly mention the chords, too. A chord is just multiple notes played at the same time, and like scales, some of them are major or minor. Even though the chords in these measures use notes from the E minor scale, the chords themselves are major. That means that if we play these chords out of context, the darkness of these measures is completely absent. But in context, the darkness of E minor comes forward. I'll never stop being amazed by that aspect of music theory. Although this is a cool device, I don't mean to make it sound like hot swapping to the parallel minor is a novel idea in pop. You can find examples all over anime music and beyond where the parallel minor is injected into an otherwise major key phrase. One of my favorite examples is the song used in the legendary 2010s meme Fukireta, or as AI VTuber Neurosama calls it, Fakirita. Employing the parallel minor in short bursts like this can put a cloud in a sunny sky, or add a splash of playful mischief to a groove. It's especially common in the OPs of modern anime, including but not limited to those of Spy Family, Mob Love Alternative, Konosuba, Bakemonogatari, Princess Connect Redive, Gurren Lagann, Kill la Kill, Girls in Panzer, and Review Starlight. Not to mention idol music like the first ED of Love Live, Kimi no Kuseni, Yume no Tobira, Galaxy Anthem, Age Age Again, Negomimi Switch, Kageyaite, Hanamuru Andante, Umisi no Sachi Happy, and Aqua Colored Palette, to name a few. Oh, also Nyan Cat. Source? I checked. You know, maybe anime music likes the parallel minor a little too much. In Bishoujo Muzai Pirates, it just feels gratuitous. Oh well, at least anime music is harmonically interesting. I can't wait for accidentals to be mainstream again in the West. Well, that was a massive tangent. Let's get back to things that matter, like using my body as a study guide for Stepbro, since he can't seem to think about anything else. I watched this show of my own free will, and that's something I can't undo. So when tension resolves at the end of a phrase of music, there's a lot of freedom in when and how that happens. The phrases can be neat and separate, like the end of the first phrase in the verse of Balance Kiss. Or the phrases can briefly overlap. In the chorus, the first phrase doesn't resolve until the first note of the second phrase. Oh, you hear that? That's tension. And that's resolution. But it's also the beginning of the next phrase, so tension immediately starts building again. What follows is my personal opinion. What I like about overlapping phrases is that the latter phrase gets some of the momentum that the former phrase was carrying. It doesn't sound terribly exciting here since the two phrases are very similar, but the more different the phrases are, the more interesting they might sound when they overlap. For example, in Emotion Burst Locomotion by Waterflame, the last phrase of one thematic section resolves on the first beat of a completely different section. That, to me, makes the new section start with more excitement and energy than it otherwise would. I'm also a sucker for music that uses a Mixolydian scale like this does. Mixolydian is like a major scale, but with the minor scale's 7th degree. It has a bit of unexpected but pleasurable tartness, not unlike the full transitions to parallel minor we looked at earlier. You know what else has overlapping phrases and Mixolydian mode? That's right, it's the post-chorus of Balance Kiss. Oh, it's only 4 measures, but man are they fun! And can I point out that this is now the 3rd type of scale we've heard in the OP for this ecchi anime. It's very uncommon for pop to use that many. This is what starts to separate Balance Kiss from the pack for me. Hashimoto didn't hold back on account of the genre. I recognize it's a bad look that we're approaching the end of the video and I'm starting to talk about what separates Balance Kiss from the pack. But I never claimed that Balance Kiss was excellent. I just think it's far better than it needs to be. Another driving force in this post-chorus is how hard it rides F sharp. In E major, F sharp is a moderately tense note because it's the 2nd degree, and that's just what the major second sounds like. It's tense because it's close to the tonic, but isn't the tonic. If we replace all the F sharps in the post-chorus with E, you can hear that the music loses a lot of its anticipation. It's no accident that this is the part of the theme where we see the title card. The regular use of the 2nd degree invites us to get excited for the episode ahead. Not that they strategized it like this is just what happens when designers do their jobs right. But before we get to the episode, there's still more of the song. What comes next is the verse. It's a verse, it's fine, it does its job, it has a unique chord progression, and taps into the parallel minor again briefly, but it doesn't really stand out for me. Then we get to the pre-chorus, and I actually think one of the lyrics is kind of brilliant. The first line translates to, "I want to tell you all kinds of things." And as one sister descends through all kinds of things, the other sings forbidden things under her in the other direction. I'm sorry, but that's good writing. The second phrase of the pre-chorus is in the parallel minor again, but like the chorus, just 2 measures in it gets interrupted by a third phrase. This phrase modulates upward through the E minor scale, by which I mean this pattern keeps repeating, but the whole thing is slowly shifting upwards. First, the pattern is rooted on the 4th degree, then the 5th degree, and the 6th degree, before resolving on the 7th degree. As you can hear, that builds an incredible amount of tension while still being easy to follow, because ultimately not much is changing. In this section, the mix is a problem again, so you can't really hear the meat of the chords, but the way they build is pretty beautiful. Here's how it sounds with the lead vocals removed. It's almost angelic, isn't it? I also really like the harmony line that the second actor has here. It would be nice if she didn't sound like she was 20 feet away from the mic. Now we repeat the chorus pretty much as it was before, but coming out of that, in the album version, the awesome Mixolydian post-chorus won't play again until the very end. I think Hashimoto knew how good it was and didn't want to wear it out. But when we do hear it again, it's a full 8 bar instead of stopping at 4, as if rewarding the listener for waiting. Speaking of which, thank you, all of you who have been waiting for me to put out a video. I'm sorry it's this one. I'm not able to make content as often as I'd like right now, but I will continue to do what I can because this channel means a lot to me. And to all my Patreon supporters past and present, you have been nothing short of altruistic for helping me as much as you have during this quiet period. Seriously, thank you. Balance Kiss is not the best piece of music I've reviewed on this channel, but it's better than it needs to be. It comforted me and cheered me up when I was in a dark place, and no one can take that from me, even if I want them to. And now you're all experts on Balance Kiss too! I bid you go forth into the world and spread your newfound wisdom. May you all find, as Balance Kiss says, shiawase endoresu. Oh my god, the twin sisters are parallel minds.